And last, not least, and finally, we will talk about one of my highly anticipated films of last year,
Sure.
Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. So I'll do the preamble, you do the synopsis, right?
Sure.
Yes. Just a little quick little backstory, right? So yeah, when I given up on the possibility of me seeing this theatrically, right? Because I complained in a previous episode that when it comes why we getting these late shows, and why it's not showing in the Trinity branch of Caribbean Cinemas 8, where the one that I go to, why is it not showing there, right? And then, like, literally a few days ago, I just go on the Caribbean Cinemas website, see, oh, it's actually showing. Say, what? Okay. And I wasted no time. Well, the following day, I went to see it, and I was so glad that I saw it theatrically, right? And then I told you about it, and well, you followed suit as well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, we are both happy and fortunate that we saw it theatrically, right? But it's just unfortunate though that down here this movie wasn't really pushed that well. It wasn't really like put into the forefront now. You know what I mean? It was
Yep.
just delegated to just night shows. So when you're done watching Red One and what else,
Jeffrey.
Mufasa. If you're feeling to watch something else, watch Nosferatu. It just came off
Right.
like that, right? But sorry, for me, and just to get to my point, right? For me, I had nothing but excitement for this, right? Because this is
Yep.
a follow. This is the latest film from a director, a filmmaker that I actually like really have been like enjoying his work so far. Robert Eggers,
Yeah.
right? This is his
Right.
fourth feature, and this actually makes it makes it the third feature that I've seen from him theatrically. Because
Right.
yes, I saw the Witch
Right.
theatrically, loved it.
Right.
I didn't see the Lighthouse, 'cause I don't think the Lighthouse showed it theatrically. You could tell me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
don't think so. I do remember seeing that in theaters,
Yeah,
for some reason. Did
we
I see that
we
in
we
theaters?
we, we had to wait till it come out
No, yeah, no, yeah, it didn't come
digitally.
out in theater. Now I
Yeah,
watch it on my computer. Yeah,
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 we had to wait till it come out digitally near the end of the year, and then we talked about that was like one of the last shows we talked about in
yeah. Right.
2019, right? Northman, I went to Movie
Right.
Town to see that.
Right. Saw that in theaters. Yeah.
And I was like, yep, that was absolutely worth my time. That was top 5 for me. Absolutely love that film. One of the best films of 2023, I believe it was. Or no, yeah, 2023, not 2022. I could be wrong, right? But yeah, Nosferatu. I had a slot in my top 5 list for this, right? And I was hyping myself. I was like, all right, this is gonna be like the best horror of the year
Yeah.
and all that too. I will talk
Yeah.
about
Not
it
fun.
being the best horror or not, right? Because well, you'll get to that in a bit, right? But yeah,
Right.
the excitement level was high for this too, because yeah, I've been loving this guy's work. I like that he leans towards folk horror a lot. I like that he makes films like, all right, and also I'll drop the joke because yeah, a lot of people who talk about this film kind of drop the joke too. It's a dumb joke, but it's a good point. Yeah, this is the first movie he's put out that does not even "the" in it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so haha, right?
I,
Yeah, yeah, right.
yeah. So, well, as I say, I would have preferred he didn't make this. Um,
Okay,
to be
all
honest,
right.
why? Because it's a remake. Like that's not the original story, and I thought
No,
it would have been like it's his take on it. But I wanted our original story, a truly original story. You see how we get, his earlier work, Lighthouse original, Very Rich original, Not Man Boy, Not Man Boy, Not Man original. You
no,
know,
Man Boy was original. Yeah,
right? All is original, but then he decided to remake this, and I know it's a real old movie, it's a classic, right?
yeah,
But I don't know. It
yeah.
just I
But
wanted, I
but
wanted, I
but
wanted to do something original.
but as you say that, right? This actually leads to a particular issue that I have with the movie, right? It's an
Right.
obvious thing, and while I was watching it, it was just like, in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, while I am loving everything I'm seeing here, it's just this one obvious glaring issue that I have with, right? But it's understandable because it is a remake, right? It's a retelling. That's all I'll say at the
Right.
moment. But yeah, Ricardo, take it away. What is Nosferatu about?
All right. So it's Tusty Vampire,
Real
right?
Tusty boy, like
Incredibly
my
Tusty,
god,
right?
like my god.
Dongbad Vampire. Count Orlok is loosely derived off of Vladimir Pale, if I remember correctly. But like what they do with it is like a kind of remake of a remake of a story in of itself with respect to like the idea of modern vampires and telling that story. But then it's just I forget this boy from oh God, what's his name? Well, Lex Luthor now, who played the new Lex Luthor. Uh,
Yeah, Nicholas Holt. I forgot
Nicholas
he
Holt,
was in
right?
this though. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
So
Nicholas
so
Holt,
he is the Jonathan Harker in this story, but
right.
in this case, sorry, he plays Thomas.
Right. So
Thomas.
you played basically we playing with the original. It's really similar, really almost identical to the original story.
Yes.
Orlok trying to do a seduction because he again thirsty, but he kind of controlling the whole village. And then what they do with the conceit of the village is the idea of the people being resigned towards the plague, because he basically is like a plague rat in human form effectively. And that's it. Just his sheer curse and his existence as it is. And then they do a lot of like deep cut stuff with respect to that. Like Willem Dafoe is in this. Now
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe
because he
is,
was in Shadow of the Vampire, which I remember seeing one time
yes,
on Showtime.
yes.
Yeah.
And Shadow
Mhm.
Vampire is really like clever. Like it's a really
Yes,
clever
it
conceit
was.
in it.
Yes.
So what they play, and it's not nice. There's a lot of reflexivity, and so that part I don't mind, as it is. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's them having to sort it out, and then well, there's of course the craft involved of just good filmmaking involved the use of shadows, like how they do in
Yes.
the original film, and that film, if you think about it, I forget who made this point. Kind of borrowing from this guy um from Letter Media. They made the point how it was the original mockbuster, right? In a sense, it's them not being able to afford Dracula as a license, so they just made their own Dracula with the numbers filed off, and then it comes back full circle by making another like a Dracula story, but he's like Dracula, but he's Count Orlok, and they name it like this, and it's a whole thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, he, Eggers does a great job with that. Like all of that, like all of the craft involved is great. You expect it because it's him. He's somebody who, for lack of a better term, does not fuck around. Right? He's just give you a damn good movie. He know his shit, and
Yeah, he
that's what
knows
it is.
his shit, boy. Yeah, boy. Yeah.
But as I said, I just felt he could have. I don't know. I don't know if I would have liked this more if he didn't call it Nosferatu. Like if he just made his own vampire story and it's really similar to Nosferatu, it's a callback to the Count Orlok stuff, or it just was not his Dracula and he just did this brand new original thing, but he just did a vampire story. I'm not sure if I'd embrace it, but because this is Nosferatu, I'm looking for the references and I'm looking for it. And that might be my fault, right? But I don't know. It was good, but it didn't rope me in as much as I felt it was, because it's like, well, it's just a remake of Nosferatu, which is in itself a kind of a mockbuster, the original Transmorphers, if you would, right? In that sense. That's how I feel about it. It didn't rope me in, but I was like, I wish it did something original. That's how I felt about it. That just that was just my 2 cents on that. But whatever.
Yeah, so here's the thing with me, right? This would have been in my top five. This would have been in my top
Oh,
five. I hold on to
sure.
that statement,
No
right?
problem. No problem. Yeah.
But as far as best horror of 2024, that still goes to the substance, right?
Right.
Because
Right. Right.
the substance gave me something different. It gave me something that I didn't expect, how it explored its story and how it used body horror to do that, right? Yes, I'm familiar with body horror, but the way how they use it to tell the story absolutely
Right.
works, right? Here, it uses gothic horror to tell the story, right? But the issue, the obvious issue, as I was alluding to, is that it's a all too familiar story, right? So
Okay.
yes, while I was watching this film, and I know a lot of people will feel the same way when they watch this, you just can't help but think about Bram Stoker's Dracula. You just cannot
Exactly.
help but think
Exactly.
about that, right? And that for
That's
me
what
is like
it have too much.
one of my all-time favorite horror movies, right? But
You know,
of
you
course.
know, you know what it's like. You know what it's like. This is not the best comparison, but it's kind of like how I feel about the Orville, right? The
Hmm.
Orville is good. Like I like the Orville for what it is, but it because it alludes to its
Something superior. Yeah.
well, not superior, but like it alludes to its other its source material or what it's
Right.
inspired by. It alludes to its inspiration a little too much. So you're making me think about it too much. That's the problem. As I said, that might be my fault, but you're making me think about Dracula and the original Nosferatu too much. And I see those movies already. So it's not scratching the itch in terms of the conceit, but it's so well done. I don't hate this, but it's good, eh? But
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
right. God, they do some great shots like that. Like not so many like good shots, but there's like this one last shot that's great where when he biting her at the ending and she like take at but the shadow, the way the shadow on the pillow angled, it looked like she turned into a monster, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
play with that, right? And it's a little stuff
Yeah.
like that, and all these little like shot. It's like okay, right, I get what you're going for, bro. Like you're doing it, but because you I really wish that you did something original, though. Like I don't know, that just um
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess that's just the issue when it comes to remix, right? It's just
Yeah,
how much of it do you want to change and how much you want to keep, right? So I do like the folk horror element of it, right?
right.
Just without spoiling too much, right? So there's a moment where where I can't really call him the hero per se, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
Thomas, played by Nicholas Holt, right?
right.
He sees firsthand how to kill a vampire. Like I thought that was a really great moment. That leaned towards, yeah, what Robert Eggers like. It's the folk horror stuff. And what we mean is just like, yeah, don't be out in the woods at night because there's some creepy shit going on, and some weird old woman would tell you, oh, when you go out, do this and do this spell, and it's that kind of stuff now. That's what he's going with. That's what he likes to do. He even did that in the Northman. There's like a moment where a hero was going around like killing people, and it's like, oh, don't go outside because there's a wild man in the woods killing people. That was some folk horror shit. I like that, right? So yeah, that
Hey, we
moment
get we
where
get we
where
get
Thomas
since
see it.
we get that since the
Wait, wait,
Witch, right?
yeah, Sissy Fitch, right?
Yeah, same
Yeah,
same.
so I
You
like
don't
that
know,
moment, right?
right?
But outside of that though, it's just merely gothic horror, right? And I have no problem with that, right? Because of the story and the setting of it, right? For one thing, the cinematography, boy, my god. Or I should say to quote, the great rap critic, oh my god!
Yeah,
Like
right.
there was some breathtaking visuals in this though, just so dark and ominous and cold. Like I was just loving the visuals in this though.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah,
watching all this like I am so happy. I'm so happy that I see this in a big screen. You know what I mean? Like if I
yeah,
was watching home, I'm like, yeah, that look cool, but I feel bad that I didn't see it on big screen. But I was watching it and I was hearing the music. I was like,
yeah.
yep, I'm loving all this, right? I'm loving all this stuff visually, right? Um, Performances were great across the board. You know who really surprised me? Two people. Lily Rose Depp, though, who plays
Right, she's pretty good. Yeah,
Ellen Hutter, right? She is the Mina Harker in the character, the one that this vampire is really really down bad for, right? And
yeah,
by the way, this setup in the opening sequence, yeah, just how down bad this guy is
yeah,
for
yeah.
she. I just watched this
Just
like, us, us.
yeah. No,
Why
you
do?
real buddy,
Why
real buddy.
do?
Yeah, the
And
real
here's
buddy.
the thing, and it's one of those shows where if you stop and you think about that particular moment in when you think about that moment, you'll be like, but wait now, but that kind of logically don't make sense to like you're telling me this person really had the hots for this girl for so long. That's all you see was pointing. But that's also kind of the beauty of the show, right? Because
Yeah,
it's vampire lore that we're working with, right? You could tweak certain things. Like it's not so much about the why, it's just the what really. That's really what it is. It's just the vampire who's seeking out this human guild for reasons, right? You don't have to over explain and tell them, oh, well, this is why, blah, 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 right? Because even Bram Stoker's Dracula didn't really quite do that, right? But to be fair, compared to Bram Stoker's, at least in Bram Stoker's, it was because Mina, who was played by Winona Ryder, looked exactly like his dead wife. It looked like Dracula's dead wife. So that's why when you see her again in modern times, or modern quotes, that's why he was like down bad first. So that makes sense. This one was just like you just kind of see she and distraction because she just have a thing about her, right? That's all you see without spoiling anything, right? But yeah, I thought that Lily Rose Depp really really shine in this though. She's really given a lot of emotional things to do here.
yeah.
At first I like how how bright eyed she is, with how she feels about the world, right? She always feels it's almost very self aware. She's oddly self-aware about the world around her. That's what I always say, right? But then when Orla kind of gets closer to her and her husband, right? Thomas, yeah, that's when she just starts freaking out more and she gets way more emotional, right? But for me, the big standout, of course, is Bill Skarsgård as Orlok, right?
I mean, yeah,
Mad
he's like
point,
a good monster person. Like he was
yeah,
great as it as
yes,
Pennywise.
yeah,
Pretty good as Pennywise. He works. He had the face fit. They keep him nice and creepy. Like it's perfect.
yes.
That body, that emaciated body, they nailed that. Like the last time we got that, I think was remember Blade 2?
Oh,
Um
with this guy Eli
y-
Damaskinos,
yeah, yeah.
yes, yeah.
Similar kind of they play with that
Yeah,
kind of
and which is also model of
Orlok, right,
Nosferatu, right? Olak,
right,
right?
Orlok,
Yeah,
right, exactly, right.
Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro, know what he was doing,
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
he
No.
do
Yeah,
Blade too. That's why he did
yeah,
Blade
there's
too,
no,
so you could do
it,
these Nosferatu references, That's
exactly.
yeah. But I'm glad that the marketing for this did not spoil his look though. It's one of
Yeah,
those things you
right.
have to go in and see for yourself, right? But
And
I
it it,
love the
it
look.
just it just disgusted enough. Like
Yes, it
but
is.
I think because as I say, not as good as Substance. Substance gross you out even more. this not didn't gross me out as much. Like it
No,
good,
no, no. And I was
but it
expecting them to, but
right,
But
right,
but but to be fair, they all right. So there are moments that made me kind of school in my seat. There are the really like visceral moments of like like characters getting killed or getting bitten by vampires, all that kind of stuff. Like
right,
those
right,
moments really work, right? But it wasn't like on the disgustingly good level of the substance. Nor was I expecting it to be, right? It
right,
had that good old fashioned gothic horror vibe to it, right? It
right,
wasn't even as over the top as say Bram Stoker's Dracula, right?
right,
Where
exactly.
yes, the death was just so grandiose. It's like, oh my god, right? It wasn't like
But
that, right?
when it started, I go, what's his name? I think it's Renfield, the opening in the early part of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
That
yeah.
was Renfield, right?
There's a version of It's the Renfield of this story. Yeah.
Right. He was like in the beginning when he was naked in the circle. That was Renfield, right? If that's supposed to be Renfield, right?
Yeah, that's supposed to be Renfield.
Right, right,
That also remind me of a moment in Northman where our heroes were being taught by the shaman who played by Willem Dafoe of all people. Oh, you
right,
want to be an animal, you need to drink this and be an animal. Rah, run around naked and fart and
right.
shit, right? That
Yeah,
that was that was in Northman, right? Yeah. But yeah, that moment really reminded me of that, right? But that was a
yeah,
really cool moment as well, right? But yeah, Bill Skarsgård really shined as at Orlok though. The voice he gave though. I
right.
love how they in post production, right? They heighten the voice so they make his sound more guttural and
Yeah.
echoey as well. That really worked though. But
As I say, he was basically like this, like you felt like this a giant rat. That's what it feel like.
yes, yeah,
You didn't feel like a bat. It felt like a rat.
yeah. And
Yeah.
also speaking of rats too, all right, so we saw the original Nosferatu in film school way back when,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw this, Ricardo, but remember when Herzog did Nosferatu the Vampire back in
Never watched that.
'79?
I never
All
saw
right,
that.
you
Yeah.
should. That is actually one
Okay.
of the best, I would say, vampire films ever made, in my opinion, right?
Okay.
But it's Werner Herzog, right? So it's his kind of sensibilities with that story, right? So
Right.
you get that, right? And you get Klaus Kinski of all people to play Orlok, and he nailed it. Like he get the look
Yeah.
down, man. It was great, right? But there was a
Mm.
moment, slight spoiler, involving rats, right? And the plague. There's that shot of the rats running into the road and whatnot. That remind me of Nosferatu the vampire, right? And
Good.
that like that moment in the old film was real creepy, just how it looked, but this was like oof, like just as creepy, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, so it just it like it I felt like Eggers dabbled a little bit with with Herzog's film, but he was more leaning towards the 1922 film. He was more leaning towards that story, but he make little changes here or there. I
Right.
could tell like the ending, which I actually like, right? I like how different it is and how it's a twist on the familiar, oh, this is how you kill a vampire thing. So I like how they do that. That was really cool, right? But that being said, though, what really was looming over my head while I was watching this, even though I was just enjoying the visuals, and the storytelling, and also this minor gripe though, the dialogue could sound a little hammy at times, but then again, it's a period piece, and they actually did the same thing in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Look, even right now to having Keanu Reeves say, "Oh my God, he's turned young," right? So they
Right.
always have to have these heightened moments of dialogue, but this kind of sound a little corny, But it's the story, right? Is that how it is, right? Yeah, what was looming over my head, unfortunately, was that I know the story. Like when I saw the Renfield character, I know who he
Right.
is. I know the beats. When Thomas goes into Orlok's castle, I know what will happen. I know how Thomas
Right.
escapes, right? You know the beats, right? Because in my head, I was thinking about friggin' Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right.
Because
Right.
that's, again, is one of my favorite horror
But
movies of all time, right? I
that's one of
just kept
those.
remembering that
But
movie.
that's one of those movies that came full circle as well, right? It was like it make homage to thing that came back to homage to this to that. It's a whole
Yeah, that's
history,
what I love
film
about the
history
show
back and
really
forth.
because it just
Yeah.
referenced so much horror films and so much like cinematic styles and whatnot. That's what I
Yeah.
love about it. It just referenced so much movies, so much content, right? But that's to the point that some people will argue that that show is more style over substance. I understand that as a criticism, right? But I think it balanced that out very well though, even though it's a very very stylized movie, right? But this one really feels like it's going old school, and that's the main takeaway with this movie. It really feels like we're going back to old school, like you're just watching some Hammer movie from the 60s. Like we're just going for good old fashioned scares. We're not trying to reference anything modern or anything like that. We're just going old school with it. It's just good old fashioned scares, but in this case, it's just bloodier than you expect, right? But again, it's hard to watch a show and not think about the Nosferatu story or the Dracula story, because that's exactly what it is, right? Sure, there are a few tweaks here or there, but it's the same story, right? Which, I mean, it's a remake story, it's a remake problem. That's what it is, right? You want to stay true to the thing, but because we know the story, we kind of have idea how it play out. It makes things less exciting, right? Even though there's a lot of great visuals and great performances to kind of keep us engaged, right? But yeah, it still would have made my top five nonetheless, right? So for me, strong 4 out of 5, right? Despite the flaws that I mentioned, right? And I see this criticism pop up when it comes to Eggers, right? Some people felt like, with Northman, right? This was him trying to get into the mainstream side of things, right? Because you could argue that Witch and Lighthouse is more on the art house side of things, right? Especially Lighthouse, right? But Northman was more like mainstream. It was more like he was trying to be mainstream, but he's trying to be artsy at the same time. This one, Nosferatu, feels like the same thing. It feels like a mixture of artsy and mainstream, right? In the sense that, the art house crowd can watch it and admire it for its aesthetic and its looks and all that kind of stuff, right? Mainstream, people who just want to see a good horror movie or a good vampire movie can watch it and just enjoy it and not have to think about if it referencing anything or like that, right? They could still watch it casually and enjoy it, right? And I think like, Eggers find his nice little sweet spot now in terms of that, right? So I know there'll be the people who will want him to go back to doing stuff like The Witch. But I think that, him on this path that he started on with Northman, I think he's on the right path. I think that this is the direction he needs to go, right? And then maybe one day he will put out a film when he reach author status. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He will put out the film that is very much him, very much Robert Eggers, right? Not like say oh gosh, the guy who did Bo is Afraid, right? Where Ari
Oh yeah,
Aster,
yeah.
for example, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, where he was on a similar path, like Robert Eggers actually, when you think about it, right? With Midsummer and Hereditary, but
Okay.
then he just went full artsy with Boys Afraid and
Right.
feeling on auto status all of a sudden is like, well, no, you ain't reached there, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
That's
like that. At least Robert on a consistent path. I like where he's
yeah.
going with it, right? Yes, it's a remake, and yes, we know the story because we've told millions of times already. But it's Eggers. Eggers really is the star of the show. Well,
Yeah.
it's really him and Lily Rose and Bill. These are the three stars, and of course Nicholas Hoult, because yeah, the
Yeah.
man the
Right.
man get to show some scary faces here. They're like the man like really was on like he was scared shitless throughout this movie.
You know.
I
Right.
like that, right? He do a great job, right? He do a great job in it, right? But yeah, I enjoy this man. Even though it is a remake of something all too familiar, I still enjoy it. And it would have been in my top five because I just loving Eggers' trajectory right now. But substance was more enjoyable for me.
Right.
And yeah, it would have been on the substance if it actually made it to into my top five, right?
Right.
But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts and rating on Nosferatu.
Yeah, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I wish it did. As I said, it's just a complaint that is a kind of non-complaint when you think about it. But as it was, this is as good as you'll get something like this. Like, okay, Eggers doing a Nosferatu movie, it's kind of obvious. And I'm glad he did it ultimately. I'm glad we have this in a sense. But I really felt he should just do a original project and do that. Like, I don't know if I would have feel how different I might have felt, but if he just did his take on a vampire movie that's not called Nosferatu or catering to the story in any way, and you just tell his vampire movie, would I have received it better? Not sure, but I still dug it for what it does. And look, it's good filmmaking all around. It's just great shots, great editing, great sound design in particular. Like especially when them rats had a flutter about, it's like you're really getting under your skin, and they nail it. They absolutely nail it. And they did good acting and just good craftsmanship and good filmmaking all around. I still give it a very high score. It probably might have made a top 10. I'm not ssure, or probably top 15. I ain't sure, but I dug it. I still dig it for it was good rating. Yeah, I still give it like a high score, like a 8 out of 10. I dug it.
Right.